This is Doris's Golf Club, where I explore the stories of women's golf, my path as a beginner, and the lessons the game offers beyond the fairway. Welcome to the club. Hello, everybody. I am back finally. I know it's been a long time, and I'm so glad to be back. Oh my goodness, you guys. So after we got back from Korea, I was sick when we were in Korea. I had gotten a cold. We got back. I was starting to get over it. And then I got sick again with something else. And so between that and crazy things going on at work, I just have been recovering and resting up and trying to kind of just recuperate. And so it's been so long since I have done a podcast, and I have really missed talking about golf and checking in with you all and kind of letting everyone know what's going on. So today, what I thought I would do is just a recap of basically all of the various tournaments that have happened since I have last talked with you. There's been a lot that has happened, and then talk about briefly a few things that are coming up, just to give you a heads up about some of the final tournaments of the year. And then I want to just tell you a little bit about some of the news that's been happening in the golf world, because some pretty major things have been happening. So I want to talk with you about that. And yeah, and then I'll kind of just get back into it. So let me tell you a little bit about all that's been going on since we have talked. So if you haven't been keeping up and following the tournaments closely, basically when my husband and I were in Korea, so we had gone the week before the International Crown. And I know I fully recapped the International Crown for you, but basically the weekend before we were there, or attending the International Crown, the weekend before that, so it was way back, think back, basically, a month or so ago, October 16th through 19th. So the weekend before the International Crown started, there was a tournament being held in South Korea, and it was the BMW Ladies Championship. So when we got there to Korea, it was so fantastic arriving there. We got to our wonderful hotel, checked in, got settled in, and we love when we are traveling to foreign countries, regardless of where we are in the world. It's always fun to check out what kind of TV shows they have. We have fallen in love with various shows, all over the world. And so just checking out what kind of TV they have is always fun in the hotel. So we turn on the TV in the hotel. They had two golf channels, and they were showing exclusively women's golf the entire time. I can't remember if I had already told you this in one of my International Crown recaps, so maybe I did, but that is how blown away I was. I couldn't get over it. The entire time we were there, we kept on switching back and forth between these two channels. One of them was showing essentially the KLPGA, so the Korean LPGA. So one golf channel was showing Korean LPGA. The other channel was showing the LPGA. So the entire time it was showing the BMW Ladies Championship. And it was incredible. So we were able to be watching that and seeing what was going on. And so it was in this beautiful golf course in basically like the southwest of Korea. And it was a golf course that was right along the coast. So it was a links style golf course there in Korea. So it was right along the ocean there. And basically the golf course kind of jutted out into the ocean, and beautiful golf course. So they were playing there. It's the Pine Beach Golf Links in Southwest Korea. And so we watched it that first weekend that we were there in Korea. And the winner there was Se-young Kim. She is a Korean golf player. And so it was very exciting to have her win. It was really amazing to be watching that on TV there in Korea, and to already start experiencing the love of women's golf there in Korea, because we could hear the crowds cheering, groaning, very expressive for all of the golf that was being played. And at the time, I think I'm just remembering, all this. I haven't gone back and looked up all these scores, but at the time there was an American player, Brooke Matthews, I believe, and she was doing quite well and she was really being supported by the crowds there. And I didn't really know who she was, but I was like, this is why Nelly Corda should have come over to the International Crown. Like the way that these fans, the spectators who were out there at this tournament, the way that they were cheering on these women playing golf, it was so wonderful to see. It's what I want to see here in the United States. This is what I feel like should be happening here and everywhere that they're playing. And so it was kind of this, ideal situation where these professional athletes were actually being supported and cheered for and rooted for and appreciated like professional athletes at the top of their game. And when I saw this kind of blonde American player there, and I'm like, that's not Nelly Corda. And then it flashed up and it's Brooke Matthews. And I'm looking at Brooke Matthews and I'm like, well, good for her for coming over, and this is right when we're thinking about like, our American team, and it's right before the International Crown, and seeing again how these spectators are just supporting these women. I mean, it really was hitting home to me immediately when we landed and we're watching these tournaments. 2 golf channels exclusively showing women's golf, not men's golf. And I don't even know that they showed men's golf at any point while we were there. Maybe some highlights, but I don't even remember seeing that. And I just thought for any woman on a professional tour to not take the opportunity to be going over and playing the Asian swing, I don't know why you wouldn't want to feel that, I don't know, adoration for you at the top of your game, because that is what you are going to get when you are playing in Asia. And that is not what you get when you were playing in America. Even with someone like Nelly Corda, who gets the largest crowds in America. I mean, they follow her, certain players they will always follow. But even with that, I mean, I've been to those tournaments and I've seen and heard the crowds, and they are not as loud and adoring and admiring even as the Korean crowds are with the women playing there in Korea. So it was very, very interesting, and it really hit home immediately when we landed there in Korea, the difference in how they value women's golf. It was really fascinating. So, like I said, Se-Young Kim was the winner of the BMW Ladies Championship. Then the next weekend, of course, October 23rd through 26th, was the International Crown. I documented that fully day by day. Of course, Team Australia won, as you all know. Like I said, the crowds there were great. Even when Team Korea did not go on to the semifinals and the finals, there were still good crowds that final day, and people were still very supportive. Obviously, the crowds did die down somewhat because Korea was not in that final day, but still, it was a great crowd. I still think I will probably do an episode where I more fully discuss the entire trip and some of the interesting things that I learned from the tournament, but it was such a fantastic experience, and really, really loved it. The way that those crowds treated the ladies was just spectacular to experience and be around and be able to cheer and be vocal. Sometimes in the States, the tournaments, when I have cheered and been one of the few, and you feel strange, it shouldn't be that way when you are cheering at appropriate times. I shouldn't be one of the only ones doing that at these tournaments. And you guys, I've only been to majors this year and then the International Crown. So when I'm saying that I'm one of the few cheering at certain times, that's ridiculous at major tournaments. Okay. So then after we left and got back here to the States, the next tournament that was there in the Asian swing, so October 30th through November 2nd, the women then flew to Malaysia. and they had the Maybank Championship. What was really fun, well, there were several very fun things about this tournament. So Maybank's, I guess, mascot or image with Maybank is a tiger. So they had tigers, images of tigers, pictures of tigers all over this golf course. And when they had the interview with, most tournaments will have an interview with like the CEO of the company, the title sponsor. And so when they were interviewing the head of Maybank, he was talking about the tiger that they had there around the golf course. And it was very cute. He was like in one of the ponds there on the golf course, they had a tiger kind of coming out of the pond. They had one along the edge of the pond that looked like it was kind of stretching. Various tigers in various poses throughout the golf course. And he was talking about how they had specifically wanted to show the tiger in all of its various I think he had even said maybe poses or moods, and he said like a sleepy tiger, a crouching tiger, a tiger ready to pounce, a stretching tiger, all these things. And when he said like a sleepy tiger, it just was adorable. So they had specifically thought about this and thought about a tiger in all of its various poses that a tiger would have. And that's what they placed around the entire golf course. So it was very noticeable even before he got on and spoke about it. It was a lot of fun to be spotting these tigers, these images and kind of cutouts of the tiger all around the golf course. But so the Maybank Championship, it evidently was very hot there in Malaysia, which of course made me look it up on a map. And this is where I told my husband, I haven't had a globe in my home since I was a child. But I said, all of these tournaments, I need a globe. I feel like I need a globe because with a flat map or just looking on your phone, I don't have the real good concept of how far things are from each other or, again, where they are on a globe. So I'm like, oh, that's not that far from Korea. But then it's like, oh, it's really close to the equator. It's very hot because when we had left Korea, like it was getting kind of a cold front. It's definitely fall. And then everyone was sweating like crazy. You could see it on TV with the Maybank Championship. It was really funny. Some people who I didn't even think sweat, like Lydia Ko, I'm like, this woman, I don't think she ever even sweats. She was sweating. And so looking it up, I'm like, ooh, I need to look up, like, where exactly is Malaysia? I, I feel like I should know these things, but I don't. Anyway, so that tournament, let me tell you, I feel like the women who went and participated in the International Crown, when I had gone through the teams and gone through the players, there were some players who had not necessarily played super well this year. Hadn't necessarily, well, certainly hadn't won a tournament maybe this year. I'm thinking of, for example, Hannah Green. Hannah Green last year had done very well. This year, she has not done very well, hadn't made the cut in many tournaments that she's played in, just not done as well this year as she has in past years. This Maybank Championship, she was up there. She was in the running. She was, I think, maybe even tied for first. She was up first, second, third. And I'm like, Hannah Green. There she was. Team Australia. She won the International Crown. Here she is. She is just, this gave her a boost. Just like at the very early part of this year at the Chevron Championship, I know you all remember Lindy Duncan, an American player who had not ever won a tournament. What was it? 11 years she's been playing, hasn't won a tournament. She was in that 5-way playoff. And no, she did not win the Chevron Championship. And no, she hasn't won a tournament yet this year. But it gave her this boost. She has been doing really well. I think, what is she? She's like 25th in the CME points this year or something. Like, she's been doing amazingly well. So it just takes one of these things, one of these tournaments to just give these people a boost that they need to then just be doing incredibly well. So Hannah Green in this Maybank Championship was doing so well. Then Hejin Choi from the Korean team of the International Crown was doing very well. She came into the last day number 1. Well, who was the third? I can't remember if it was Alim Kim, someone. I thought it was someone else from the International Crown. Anyway, a bunch of the top players, maybe even like all top 5, top 10, a bunch were from the International Crown. And so my husband told me, he was like, I recognize most of these names from the International Crown. I was like, this is so much fun because I'm telling you, it just gave everyone kind of a boost. So then he knew the result and he was like, do you know who won? I said, no. And so I had it recorded. So we pulled up the final day. We were watching. There was a rain delay. So here's what I don't understand. On Golf Channel, when they are playing it, how many hours later, when they're showing it, it for us, it's being played the next day. A rain delay, we get like 2 hours of this whole day. Why in the world are they not cutting that out and showing us the actual final results of this tournament? But no, they didn't do that. And so we're watching and he's like, they're not going to show what actually happens. They start showing the 2024 Maybank Championship and then it just ends. It ends and they go to some random, I don't know, show on the Golf Channel. So we had come back from Korea with 2 golf channels designated both to women's golf to here in America, our one golf channel that decides to show maybe 2 hours a day of the women's tournament and can't even show us the actual end of the tournament. Yeah, it's pitiful. It is embarrassing how we treat women's golf here in America. So what we did, we went over to YouTube and found like a 15-minute compilation of the last day. And we watched it. And it was incredibly exciting because out of nowhere, Miyu Yamashita, she had been, I don't know, maybe tied for 4th or something that last day, 4th, 5th. She wasn't even in the leaderboard being shown most of that last day when I was watching. And then all of a sudden, her last few holes, she's just clearly just birdie, whatever. She comes up and it ends up in a 3-way tie between Miyu Yamashita, Hannah Green, and Hejin Choi. And Hejin Choi, who I have seen in so many tournaments, she is top of the leaderboard so many times. I didn't realize she has never won an LPGA tournament. So this would have been her first win, 3-way tie. So they go to a 3-way playoff, and they go, and guess Miyu Yamashita wins the Maybank Championship. Incredible. And I just saw it in these clips from a recap on YouTube. Anyway, it was still incredibly exciting. So that was Miyu Yamashita's second win of the year. As you know, she won a major this year, the AIG Women's Open in Wales. Incredible. And this is her rookie year. All right. After that, so November 6th through 9th, they then went to Japan, and it was the Toto Japan Classic. There in Japan, Nasa Hataoka. I don't know anything about Nasa Hataoka, but she won the Toto Japan Classic. From what I heard, there were very few Americans who remained there in Asia for that final tournament. Then everyone came back here to America, to Florida. So this weekend was November 13th through 16th was the Annika Driver by Gainbridge at Pelican. That's a great tournament name, don't you think? So it's basically the Annika. So it's a tournament played in Bel Air, Florida at the Pelican Golf Club. And this is a very important tournament because it is the final tournament before the CME Championship, which is being played next weekend. And so it's the last tournament where you can earn any CME points for the entire year, because obviously next weekend is the CME Championship. So for a few different reasons, it's very important to be winning those CME points. So the top 60 women, 1 through 60, play next weekend at the CME Championship. if you recall, and I'm sure you do because it's amazing, the winner of that tournament receives $4 million. So it's not a $4 million purse. The winner receives $4 million. And they're basically declared like the champion of the year. Now, another reason why it's very important this last tournament to be able to participate and earn some points is because the top 100 on that CME list, the CME points, those 1 through 100 women keep or earn their full LPGA Tour card, their membership, full membership for the year. I'm going to do some more episodes once these tournaments are done about a few things. So I'm going to do a deep dive just because I need to have a better understanding of what it means to have a full tour card versus some of these other things. Because clearly there are players who are below 100 who make it into LPGA tournaments and are able to play in them. It depends on the tournament, who gets invited at this tournament that just happened. I'm sure you all have heard the news that Donald Trump's granddaughter, Kai Trump, was invited by the sponsor to play. And it is common, every single tournament, the sponsors get the right to invite a certain number of players. It is not uncommon for them to invite someone popular, someone newsworthy. You know, that is a pretty typical thing. So how the other people are selected, I'm not sure. So I'm going to do a deeper dive. But this last tournament was really important for people on the bubble. And so the bubble was important for people right around 60 to see who would make it into the CME championship. And then people right around 100 to see who would either earn or keep their full membership, LPGA membership for next year. So I was reading a really great article on the LPGA's website about this. And so there were a few athletes, a few women right around those two bubbles that were in the tournament, playing in the tournament, and who were doing really well. And so they had written this article based on people's score at the end of Saturday. And so then I was able to look at their score at the end of the tournament and see where they placed. And it was really fun to see. So let me tell you a little bit about that. So a few people were on the bubble there at 60, right around 60. So to see if they would be able to play in the CME Championship next weekend for an opportunity to play for that $4 million big winning check. So on that bubble, we have Natalia Guseva. So she is 22 years old. She's unattached. As far as a country, she joined the LPGA in 2024, and going into the Annika tournament this weekend, she was 64th in the race to the CME Globe. So 4 spots outside of the top 60. But she was playing really well, and at the end of Saturday, she was tied for third. If she held that position through the end of the tournament, she would be projected to move to 52nd in the race to the CME Globe. Obviously, she could go up or down based on her actual end score or end place, but that's a huge jump. So going from 64th, not being able to play in the CME Championship, to potentially being able to move to 52nd and play next weekend. So that's Natalia Guseva. Then Lucy Lee, she is from the US, and she came into the Annika 71st in the race for the CME Globe. So 11 positions away from that top 60 that she needed. At the end of Saturday, she was in a 3-way tie for 5th. And if she held that, she would rise to 60th in CME points. So that is really close. And obviously it could move various ways, but that would be getting her right in there where she needs for the end of the year to play in that tournament. And she had talked about how she had been playing really well at the beginning of the Asian swing, but then she evidently had gotten really sick while in Malaysia and was still sick in Japan, but she had started getting over it, still feeling a little bit sick there during the Annika, but obviously was playing much better. So, okay, that was Lucy Lee at the end of Saturday. Brooke Matthews, who I told you we had seen as soon as we landed there in Korea. She was playing there in the BMW Championship in South Korea. Very exciting to see an American playing there and doing well and getting so many cheers, really being rooted for there in South Korea. So she was 2 spots outside of the top 60. So she was 62nd in the race to the CME right before this tournament, the Annika. So at the end of Saturday's day, she was tied for 10th. And she was projected, if she had stayed there, she was projected to get to 58th in the race to the CME. So Alexa Pano. Alexa Pano is, I really like Alexa Pano. I had seen her do a little, I think maybe on LPGA's Instagram, she was showing her makeup routine, I think, and they were talking about how you could watch more on YouTube, and she was talking about, she had learned various things from all the girlies on TikTok, and this is a big TikTok thing, and she was just really cute, and so that's when I had first seen her. And then recently when I got on TikTok for the very first time. I've never been on TikTok, but getting on TikTok, and there are not as many players on TikTok as on Instagram, which surprises me because TikTok, I think, is typically for a lot of younger people use it more than Instagram. And Alexa Pano is on TikTok, and so I followed her along with Natalia Guseva. They are very good friends. And so they do a lot of little videos together. They're very cute. They did this video together that I love. So they had like a random club generator app or something on their phone. And so they decided to play, I don't know if they were playing an entire round of golf, but they certainly showed a hole that they were playing. And they did maybe it was a par 5 or something, and they did a random club generator to determine what club they would hit each hit with. And then they, were videoing it, and it was fascinating. First of all, really a great challenge. Second of all, incredibly impressive what they were both able to do, because they both got par, and I think their putt was with a driver. I can't remember what they teed off with, but each swing, each hit was with the absolute wrong club, of course, and how they were still able to get it in par, not a big deal. Like, it was really impressive. Anyway, I really like Alexa Pano. So she is on that bubble of 100. Alexa is from the United States. She is 21 years old. She joined the LPGA in 2023. She entered the tournament right at the 100 mark. So she was right at 100 in the race to the CME Globe. Currently, so at the end of Saturday, she was in a tie for 10th. If she kept that same score, she would be projected to climb to 93rd. And so again, she was right in that position where it's so important if she moves up or down with her score. And it's really kind of precarious for her being right there at 100 if she's going to be able to keep her full card, her full membership this next year, or if she's going to drop down and not keep it. So I, of course, know what happens to those 4 players. Let me tell you now. Here is where they ended up. Natalia Guseva ended up 57th. So she will be playing next weekend in the CME Championship. Next, Lucy Lee. She ended up 58th in the CME points, and so she will be playing next weekend in the CME Championship. Then we had Brooke Matthews. She ended up 59th. She will be playing next weekend in the CME Championship. So the three of them, 57th, 58th, 59th. Oh, I'm really happy for the three of them. All right, then let's see. So right on that bubble there, we had Alexa Pano, right? Okay, she ended up 97th. So comfortably, I mean, not right at 100. So she's at 97th. She did maintain her full card for next year, for 2026. So that is very, very good. All right. Like I said, I am definitely going to be doing kind of a deep dive and learning all about the full LPGA Tour membership, exactly what Q School is, because I want to find out if it's similar for both the men and the women. As you know, I love the chipping forecast, and Eddie Pepperell has had a lot going on, but he went through Q School and did just earn his card back for the DP World Tour, which is very exciting. I'm very proud of Eddie Pepperell. Anyway, so I just want to learn more about it, about the whole thing. So I'm going to be doing more of a deep dive in the very little short off season that the women have, which is basically a few weeks in December before tournaments start again in January. Because let me tell you, oh my goodness, I totally forgot to tell you guys who won the Annika. Lynn Grant. So Lynn Grant from Sweden, as you know, she was on the Sweden team, Team Sweden at the International Crown. I'm telling you, if you play on the International Crown, it gives you a boost. I'm so happy for Lynn Grant. I don't know. I've got to count up how many different winners we had this year. I lost track, but so many different winners this year. Now, this next weekend is going to be thrilling with the CME Championship. I had been planning to go, but spending time with my family is going to be more fun. I'm going to spend time with family before Thanksgiving and for Thanksgiving. I am very much looking forward to it. I'm going to have some rest and relaxation and some fun time with family, but I will be watching it and letting you all know what happens. The CME Championship is played in Naples, Florida at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Resort. And like I said, it's the top 60 women, and I'll be keeping track of what's going on. I will be doing some podcasting from my brother's house and letting you all know what is happening. But I'm really excited. I mean, these top 60 women, I don't know. I kind of think I know them all at this point. I think you all probably know most of them. And so I'll be reporting back about that tournament next weekend. Then that's pretty much it for the year. However, there is one more tournament in December. It's a very interesting tournament, and I'm actually very excited about it. It's called the Grant Thornton Invitational. And it is, let's see, it's December 12th through 14th. So it's a 3-day tournament. And in the title, it's an invitational. There are only 32 players. There are 16 men and 16 women. It is a co-ed match play event. So it's a team event, co-ed team event. And I say match play, they've got various, I don't know how exactly it's structured. I'm going to do more investigation before the tournament and let you all know. But it's only been played 2 times before this tournament, but I can't wait to watch it. I'm really excited. So this is the 3rd time. It's also being played in Naples, Florida at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Resort. So it's the same place as the CME Championship. And like I said, so there's going to be 16 different teams, 1 man, 1 woman. It's an invitational. So it's co-sanctioned, of course, between the LPGA and the PGA. And The teams look fantastic. I'll go through it more with you all as it gets closer, but feel free to go look at the website. The teams look really fun. I actually don't know many of the men. I know some of them, but because I haven't been following the PGA this year basically at all, I know very few of the men. I know all of the women, and it's a really good mix of women. Very, very excited to watch it. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. Anyway, so I told you it's been played 2 times before. The past 2 times it's been played, the purse has been $2 million, and the winning team got $1 million. And so they each got $500,000. This year, the purse is going up to $4 million. So I'm wondering if the winners will get $2 million and will each get $1 million. For the women, that's a very significant amount. I know it's not nearly as much for the men, but for the women, that is a very good amount for winning a tournament, especially with that low of a pool. I mean, an entrant pool, that's great. So the previous winners, let's see, in 2023, the winning team was Lydia Ko, of course, from New Zealand, and Jason Day, who is from Australia. And then in 2024, the winning team was Patty Tavatanakit from Thailand. You know that she was in the Team Thailand International Crown team this year. And then Jason Knapp from the US, and I don't know him. I will say they're a repeat team this coming year, as are Lydia Ko and Jason Day. So very exciting. Okay, like I said, I'm going to talk about it a lot more when we get closer, but I just wanted to put it on your radar. I'm very excited about it. All right, one more thing I just want to talk about with you all, because it is something important that has come up in the meantime since the last time I talked with you. So something that our LPGA commissioner, Craig Kessler, has done is very recently, so I guess November 5th, it came out that he had signed an agreement with PIF, which is Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. So the LPGA has signed an agreement with PIF to co-sanction a tournament for next year. And so the PIF has been working with the Ladies European Tour for a few years now, and they have sponsored like a 5-tournament championship that goes around several places, I think around maybe Europe and Asia. And so this tournament now that the LPGA has signed on to is part of that championship. The LPGA, LAT, PIF, and Gulf Saudi announced that the LPGA will co-sanction a PIF Global Series event in the United States. So it's the Aramco Championship at Shadow Creek Golf Club in Las Vegas. So this is going to happen April 2nd through 5th, 2026. They're going to have 120 players. The purse is $4 million, which I think is one of the highest purses. It's not a major tournament. And the series, like I said, the PIF Global Series, it includes 5 events across 3 continents. They've had this global series with the LAT, I think maybe for a couple of years now. I'm not sure how long that they've had it, but this is the first time that the LPGA is co-sanctioning an event with a PIF at Gulf Saudi. So I think we knew that this was probably coming. Craig Kessler, as soon as he was hired, said that he was open to talking with all interested parties, including PIF. I have a lot of thoughts about this, and I've been sorting through my thoughts. I think it's worth you all knowing what's going on. If you don't know about LIV and the PGA and all of that history, I can give you a brief history. So basically, I don't know, what was it, 2001, 2022, the Saudis, through the Public Investment Fund, PIF, started this new golf league called LIV Golf. And they came in and started offering PGA players and DP World Tour players a ton of money to come play for them. And so very good players, some very good players left and joined live golf. And it's it was a massive disruption to men's golf, both the DP World Tour and the PGA. PGA and DP World Tour, cut them out of tournaments, wouldn't let them play in their tournaments. And then there were all kinds of lawsuits going on. Then, there had been kind of talks of mergers and what are we going to do and are we going to combine things? And basically PGA Tour members, Rory McIlroy was a big one. I mean, like, he was coming to press conferences and saying, like, the people who left should never, like, we should never merge. We should never let them back in. Like, I'm standing against it. This is an awful thing, and they should not be allowed to play. We should not merge. And then in June 2023, basically, kind of unbeknownst to any of the players, any of the PGA players, PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and PIF announced a very kind of surprise kind of framework agreement that they were going to form this new unified entity. So basically they were all going to merge. But then it stalled and Department of Justice got involved. They were starting to investigate because, of course, antitrust laws. And of course, there were concerns with PIF because of where the money was coming from, foreign influences, all kinds of issues with that. And so the merger stalled, and there's been still to this day no actual merger. They keep kind of bumping out the timeline. There have been a few various announcements that have come out over the years, and they'll say, oh, a deal is coming up or a deadline for a deal. I think that they extended it, the end of this year. I think there was supposed to be, some deal, and there's, nothing. I think even, Trump at some point was going to solve it all and meet with everybody and get it all solved. It's not solved. So it still is a huge mess. It was a big deal as far as, again, what tournaments the live players could play in. They still have certain fines against them. So it's still a mess. So that's kind of the history. A lot of the live players have been still kind of ostracized. Things have relaxed a little bit, but still, I mean, it's, not great for the sport. So there you go. That's what the PIF has done for men's golf. And so LPGA has just announced a nice $4 million tournament deal with PIF. Okay. Part of what I'm thinking is something that has frustrated me. Even back when Craig Kessler had made that announcement when he was first hired, that he was open to at least entertaining discussions with all parties, including PIF. The reaction that I heard from podcasters, I'll just say podcasters that I listen to, these are podcasts that are primarily about men's golf. I mean, 99% about men's golf. And when they had mentioned this, they, I think, uniformly praised it. Didn't seem to have a problem with Craig Kessler making the statement or even what was underlying the statement, which was that he would entertain these discussions with PIF. And these were podcasts that for, at that time, I don't know, at least a year and a half, had been and still kind of continue to lament the fact, and that's putting it mildly, lament the fact that Live, which of course is owned, backed by PIF, has ruined men's golf. Things have forever been changed with what the Saudis did and came in and did with men's golf. And to hear the uproar and the continuous discussion on not only a moral, ethical level, but then even just on a level of disrupting men's golf, the level of outrage and this is unacceptable and on and on and on and on for years, year and a half, year, whatever, these discussions. And then when it was mentioned that that may be something that would be considered with women's golf, it was basically like, yep, sounds good. It's what he's got to do. I was disappointed. I was angry. that was the level of discussion and thought, the level of consideration that was being given to the women's side. Like, if you're not even going to really think through any of the implications, then don't even talk about it. Don't give an opinion. That was my thought. So that's one thing. Another thing is, okay, for example, with men, with the men's side of it, when Liv was started and they were poaching all of the men that they could get, that they could buy off. I mean, John Rahm, one of the best golfers. I mean, rumors were he was paid $450 million to come play for Liv. I don't know if it's ever been officially announced, but I mean, I think everyone's pretty much settled on between 300 million and 450 million. Like it was 9 figures. That I think that's been confirmed. And I think it's been confirmed. I mean, between Phil Mickelson and Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm and the kind of the core bunch that they had taken. I mean, I think it's confirmed it was at least $1 billion that Liv paid, like guaranteed money that they paid. So another thought I have is, all right, Craig Kessler, if you want to make a deal with the devil, then at least get a lot of money. Like, if the men, you know that they have the money. So if you're going to do this, if you're going to sell your soul to the devil, then at least get at least half of what the men get. At least 70 cents on the dollar, right? Like, at least get $700 million. At least get $500 million. At least make them put their money where their mouth is. If Golf Saudi and if PIF wants to claim that they are really pro women's golf and they're really, really, doing all these great things, okay, then let's see it. Let's get a lot of money. A $4 million purse? Really? So that's another thought I have. It seems pretty pitiful for selling your soul to the devil, right? The other thought I have, living in the world that we do, quite honestly, if we start looking at questionable sponsors, how many sponsors are we actually going to accept money from? If we start digging deep into the practices of certain companies, how many align fully with what we want to be associated with? And I know that there are different levels of bad. I think we all can agree to that. And who draws the line? Where is the line? There's a lot of gray. So that's something else I've been thinking about. I also don't like when some of the most outspoken or very outspoken male players took the money and went over to Live. In some of their press conferences, they were then giving their rationale as, oh, I love the team aspect of the sport, and there's some golf courses I've never been able to play. I get to play them now, and some ridiculous stuff. It was the money. That's all it is. Everyone knows. They know. Everyone. But they weren't allowed to say that. Like, Liv didn't allow them to say that in their press conferences. So if Liv has the power to silence those men, what do you think is going to happen with women who don't really like this, maybe don't agree with this? Do you think they're going to feel really enabled to speak out against this? Do you think they're going to want to voice their opinion against this? Do you think they feel comfortable? Do you think that they have zero choice in the matter? I mean, maybe they can just not play. Okay. I mean, that sucks for them that they're put in that position. Do you think that they're going to feel that they have anyone backing them up from the organization if they come out and say, this is not good? This is a group that was actually silencing men, and we know how they treat women. Like, it's a bad look. At a minimum, bare minimum, a women's organization taking money from Saudi Arabia is a bad look. But if you're going to, my God, take more money than that, like demand more money than that. So yeah, I mean, I have lots and lots of thoughts. I mean, basically it's a done deal. It's done. It's not just the lack of outrage that I've heard, but the lack of even discussion that I've heard is bewildering to me, particularly from all of the sources that are still discussing or still even mentioning the effect that PIF has had and Liv has had on the men's game. That pisses me off. But I'm here to talk about it. And I think you all should be talking about it and thinking about it. At least just talk about it. I mean, this is nuanced. At least it's worth discussing. At least, like, is more money in the women's game a good thing? Yes. Is this source problematic? Yes. Are other sources maybe problematic? Possibly. You know what I've also been thinking about this? You know what makes me really mad? Do you know how much money there is in the US, in US companies, in individual US individuals, in US individuals? Like, there are women in the US who are, I don't know, in the top, I don't know, top list of how much money they have. There are a lot of Asian businesses that have a lot of money. I was just talking about how much they value women's golf and the golf channels over there. Why aren't they putting their money where their mouth is? Their money needs to align with how much they value women's golf. Same with American companies. There's a reason why Craig Kessler felt that he had to go make a deal with PIF. If we had sponsors who were stepping up to support the LPGA, we would not need to go to PIF. So let that sink in too. We're taking money from a sports washing, ridiculous public investment fund from Saudi Arabia instead of supporting the Ladies Professional Golf Association. Anyway, all right, okay, I know there's a lot more there. I still am sorting through. And like I said, I just think it's worth discussing. I just want to be hearing more discussion about this. And I also want other people to step up and invest in our women. So, I didn't want to end on that bummer of a note. Let me tell you something fun about Korea. So I got my nails done there. My friend had told me about this really incredible nail salon. They're all over Instagram and they do this amazing nail art. So not like some of the nail art you see here in the States, but like this, like actual art. Like it's incredible. I didn't have time to make an appointment and go to this place. So I just went to a random nail salon in the Starfield Coex Mall because my nails were growing out and I needed to just get them done. So I went in and asked if they could do my nails. I had the dip powder, And they said they didn't do that, but they did gel. Was that fine? I said yes. So I go in and they cannot get my dip powder off. They're kind of like filing, and then they put the, like the acetone, whatever, on with these clips, but then they're like filing it off. And it may not have been acetone, it may have been something else. And they just like can't get off. And so then one of the women is asking the other, she's like, why can't I? And so she was asking, she's like, it's dip? And I said, yeah, it's, dip powder with gel over it. And so then I said, do you, and there's a bit of a language barrier. She didn't speak the best English. And of course, I don't speak Korean. I wish I did. And so I said, do you not use dip powder in Korea? And she said, no. I said, oh. I said, do you only use gel? She said, yes. So I don't know if that's true all over Korea or maybe just in the salon, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's, all over Korea. But that was fascinating to me. So then I'm in this salon, these two women, I felt so bad for them. They each have one of my hands and they're both just filing, trying to file off the dip powder, like, I mean, even when it's done thin, it's still thick. I felt so bad and thinking like, they don't use this. What are they thinking? And so they kept like trying to put this stuff on and kind of soak a little bit off and then file. They're like, oh, so then finally they get it off. And so then they're like cleaning everything up. But then they're both sitting there and I guess they were just like, well, there's no one else in here. So they're both just like, each one's doing like a different hand, like my cuticles, and then starting to like cut and shape. But then luckily, one took over to like, get them even and like paint them and everything. But it was just fascinating. So I want to learn more. And now that I've just had gel, it's been kind of nice. I realized I'm like, gel is fine. I mean, it's been a long time since I've only done the gel polish because usually I felt like I needed the dip powder. But no, just the gel is very nice. So anyway, I thought that was very fascinating. Also, my girlfriend had told me about how fantastic their earrings are and how when she went, she didn't yet have her ears pierced and she has since gotten them pierced, but her sister was with her and bought so many earrings because they're so fantastic. And I was like, I mean, I'm sure they're great, but like, I couldn't imagine. I'm like, you know, what? What's so different? What makes them so great? You guys, they are so great. I can't even, it's hard to describe. Like, how are they so different and unique? But they are. Like, these shapes and combinations of little things. Okay, so I'm wearing some that I bought there, and just some that I mean, again, like the different designs and patterns and different things that they have, just stuff that I have not seen over here. But then I'm looking at it, I'm like, why have I not seen this? Like, it's not crazy. It's not like, but why have I not seen it over here? I couldn't get enough. I could not get enough. There's so many different styles, so many. Why don't we have those over here? Like that variety. So many. It was so much fun. I mean, just to go back and get more earrings, that alone would be enough. Okay. I wanted to end on a high note, on a fun note, and I think that certainly was a fun note. Well, I've just got so much more to tell you about the trip. I'll do an episode later about the trip, my thoughts on the tournament. I want to talk with you all. I'll maybe do like maybe a mini episode about this next year if you want to go to a close tournament to you. Just kind of what to expect going to a tournament. If you're nervous at all, if you don't know what to expect, they're great. I'll just kind of talk through it. And I don't know if you have any other ideas about things that you would like me to do, any discussions, any topics, let me know. You can DM me at Doris Golf Club. You can email me, dorisgolfclub@gmail.com. I'm also thinking about what I want to do this next year as far as podcasts and discussions. So if you have ideas, please let me know. And yeah, I'm glad I had another episode. It's been fun to chat with you all. And until next time, bye.